Test, test. Sure there's no one. Yeah, yeah.
What time do you reckon you're going to be?
As soon as he comes in now. Oh, no, just check.
Yeah.
Only got you. No. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody use it. Right, we're going to get going. This isn't on. Yeah. All right. Yes, you can all hear me. Clear. Great to see everyone here again this evening for another TreatyWS Society evening. We have Mark down from.
Click this on.
That's on. Yeah. So we have Mark down with us from Mark McConville from Bushmills. How are you doing?
Great.
Great to have
Good.
you here. We've put together a great selection of whiskies. We did ask about maybe getting some ultra aged whiskey onto the menu, but would have meant we were dealing with black bush, red bush for the rest of the day. Great. Do you want to
Good. Fantastic to have such
And this
a
over,
caliber of brand coming down.
Yeah.
Really good. Delighted to see it.
No, here, delighted to be here as well. So, yeah, we all we're good to kick off.
Yeah.
100%. So, guys, thanks very much for coming out as well and for being here. Hopefully, you'll enjoy the taste I've kind of put together for you guys. It's well thought out. We've been in conversation about this for quite a while, about what we're going to put together for you guys. So, first of all, what I want to do, obviously, you're all aware, I assume, you're all aware of Bushmills. Yeah, it's hard not to be. But what I want to do is kind of give you a bit of an insight into what I do within the company, what Bushmills actually is, because you probably see a lot of things and you know a lot of things about Bushmills, but you maybe don't know what we do behind the scenes. So I want to give you that tonight. And then what we'll do, we'll get into tasting some amazing whiskies, which you'll hopefully love. Some of which you'll know, majority of which you probably won't as well. So first of all, I suppose I'll introduce myself. Yes, I'm Mark McConville. I'm the brand ambassador for Bushmills over Ireland. So I spend my days traveling across the country here, chatting about Bushmills, taking educational sessions, basically lifting the curtain on what we do at Bushmills Distillery. So, like I say, a few things you might know of, and a lot of which you probably don't. Last week, I was doing a tasting, and someone said Bushmills is like the Area 51 of Irish whiskey. And that's something I'm going to steal, to be honest, because what you'll see in front of you is an array of whiskies, a smorgasbord from one scale to the other. But that's the tip of the iceberg of what we actually do as well. So one of these whiskies tonight, nobody has ever tasted before. And you guys are one of the first people to ever try this outside of our distillery and Andrew last week. So I wanted to showcase, yes, our core range, some of our core range, some of our experimental releases, but also lift the curtain on what we're doing behind the scenes as well. So I'll delve into this very, very briefly about what Bushmills is. You guys all know this, I'm sure anyway. We are the world's oldest licensed distillery, dating back to 1608. And what that means is, in relative terms, that's 415 years and counting that we've been distilling single malt Irish whiskies. We are trying to be the pioneers of single malt Irish whiskey globally. And I don't think there's anybody else who would have the caliber to say that outside of Bushmills. Our time spent distilling single malt Irish whiskey tells that tale alone. But having said that, with our tasting tonight, we're going to change things about ever so slightly. Okay? So without bringing you guys too much into our processes and our history, etc., what I will say is there's a couple of significant dates that fall into the Bushmills story. So one of which, yes, 1608, granting of our official license, making us the oldest licensed distillery in the world. Another date is 1785. Now, I'm going to open this up to the floor here. Does anybody know why 1785 would be a significant year for Irish whiskey? If you do, you'll get an extra dram. Shout out, shout out. Nobody ever gets this question, by the way. It was the introduction of the malt tax in Ireland. Okay? See, someone knew it and didn't say it. Do you know what I mean? Just feel confident, go and say it. So basically, what that meant was, at that point in Ireland, we had hundreds of distilleries, hundreds of whiskey distilleries in Ireland distilling malt Irish whiskey. Okay? With the implementation of the malt tax, that meant that a lot of people either couldn't afford to use malt as their premium cereal, premium grain. So they either switched to different grains or they ceased production entirely. Okay, that led us fast forward the whole way up to as recently as 1990. Doesn't seem recent, but it is. In 1990, we had 4 working Irish whiskey distilleries in Ireland. 4. Now we're up to, as of this year, I think 50. As of February this year, I think. So we're in a complete renaissance for Irish whiskey. And it's a really, really great time to be involved with Irish whiskey. Bushmills being one of the backbones of that. And we're very proud to be able to now, in recent years, start to release some of those experimental casks and those experimental caskings, yes, but just the experiments, I suppose, that we've been going through over the past couple of years. Whiskey is a very, very patient business, as we all know in this room. So we've been sitting on a lot of things for a number of years, just waiting on those things to be absolutely perfect. And we're lucky now in the past sort of 5 years that we have been able to release our 25-year-old or 30-year-old or 31-year-old single malts, as well as introducing you guys to the Causeway Collection, which is our cask strength variation. All limited editions, 2 of which you're going to try tonight, which are both, like I say, cask strength, but using some of the rarest casks that we can globally. So we haven't been sitting dormant in Bushmills. We have been experimenting year on year on year, and we're very proud now that we're in a position to be able to bring these whiskies to you guys. So you're not here to hear me speak too much, I suppose. You're here to try some fantastic whiskies. So are you all ready to delve in? Yeah, 100%. So we've done this very easy for you guys, right? We have 6 whiskies to try tonight, numbered 1 to 6. It's very, very hard to get wrong. So the first whiskey that we have for you guys to try tonight is also something you might not have tried before, because this is brand new to the market. So number 1 is our brand new 14-year-old single malt. I'm sure you guys are all accustomed with the Bushmills core range. And me as brand ambassador, I have a job where I, like I say, travel across Ireland and I spread the good word of Bushmills. And if you've been to any of my tastings previously, or if you've been to a Bushmills tasting previously, you know that bourbon and sherry casks play a big part in our story. The 14-year-old, which we're starting you off today, is the whiskey that bucks the trend with Bushmills. So I had a very neat and tidy spiel, so to speak, whenever I was chatting about our core range single malts, that it was, you know, our water source flows over basalt rock. Every single drop of Bushmills flows over basalt rock, which if you've been to our distillery, you know, Giant's Causeway is a stone's throw away, pardon the pun, didn't mean that one. But it's very, very important within our story. Our water source is very mineral rich, and it's something very, very unique to the area. The next step on that was bourbon and sherry casks and how they would accentuate our Bushmills DNA, which you get within our new make spirit. This is something you're going to hear me chat about tonight, our DNA. And there's something very, very special happens with Bushmills that I don't think really happens with any other Irish whiskey. And I don't really think happens with any other whiskey globally. Okay, that's a big statement for me to make. I know that. But there is an inherent DNA within any Bushmills liquid that is 3 Fs: fruity, floral, and fragrant. Okay, so within our DNA and that new make spirit, you get green apple, ripe pear, bit of zesty lemon citrus, and milk chocolate notes coming from that use of the malt. Okay, um, with the with your number one here, your 14-year-old, you get all of that. But this is the first whiskey within the Bushmills core range that there is no sherry element whatsoever. So you get first and second filled bourbon, and then finished in Malaga wine casks for up to a year. So the way tonight is going to go, I don't want you guys to stand on ceremony for me. Feel free, have a nose, have a taste. Okay. I've been to many tastings previously over the years where I felt like I've been talked to as opposed to having a conversation with. I've had people throw whiskey jargon at me previously. We're not going to do any of that. You're not going to hear me chat about toasted leather or sandalwood or any of that sort of stuff. It's going to be in relative terms. I want you guys to feel comfortable in having a conversation. Think about how you like to enjoy whiskey. Okay? Probably the same way as I do. It's sitting at a bar, beside a friend, probably chatting a wee bit of guff. You know what I mean? It's not making too much sense, but enjoy yourselves. Let's have a conversation about whiskey tonight, okay? And let's take all the jargon, all of the myths out of here. So number one, like I say, is something that bucks the trend from Bushmills. First and second fill bourbon, finished in Malaga casks for up to a year. It's 40% ABV. This is something you will have never tried from Bushmills previously. Brand spanking new onto the market as well. So hopefully this is something that you will love to change a gear from Bushmills as well. Please have a try now. Has there been anyone in here who's tried the 14-year-old up to now? Nobody? Fantastic. I don't know about online. We'll maybe see. But, this is something. It's been on the market for a couple of weeks now, and it's something very, very exciting from Bushmills. I'm sure if you're Bushmills fans, you know you're well aware of our core range, our 10-year-old, our 16-year-old, 21-year-old. This is slap bang in between our 10 and our 16. But it's very, very different from anything you would have seen from Bushmills previously. So, any bourbon drinkers in the house? Yeah. Sometimes? Yeah. Okay. Well, it hasn't passed just yet. It hasn't passed just yet. So we're fine. But also, I'll touch on that briefly without trying to bore you with information. So bourbon casks have always seemed a constant in Irish whiskey. Yes, they actually weren't popularized until the 1960s. That was the first instance that we seen bourbon cask influence in Irish whiskey. Prior to that, it was all wine casks. Ireland had the busiest ports, probably in Europe, for a long time. And it was wine merchants coming from France, from Portugal, from Italy, from Spain. And their first port of call was Ireland, on the way to obviously America, Canada, etc. But that meant that we were an immense trading port, an immense trading country. So we were able to say, we have this amazing product in Irish whiskey. They were able to say, we have this amazing product in French wine, Italian wine, fortified Portuguese wines, whatever it might be. So that's where that relationship started out, and that's where our history is. Um, Bourbon casks weren't actually popularized until the 1960s, when, truthfully, we found out there was a bit of a deal that we had, and as Irish people, we love a deal. They can. What do you mean? They can only use their casks once. Okay, yeah, no, we have a home for them. Yep, grand. Give us them all. So you'd be hard pressed to find an Irish whiskey that doesn't have a bourbon cask influence. But that's not to say we're pigeonholed to having bourbon as our sole caskings or one of our core caskings. At Bushmills, I mean, we have a variety of different experimental casks that we're continuously experimenting with. Bourbon is one, obviously, that we've dealt with quite a bit. It's been a foundation for us with our bourbon sherry split across our core malts. But we're also looking outside of that as well. On the other side of that, we want to explore the bourbon cask a bit more, because with the 14-year-old, this is first and second fill bourbon cask. So with the first fill, you're going to get those lovely quintessential bourbon notes that you would expect: honey, vanilla, caramel, toffee, butterscotch, all those sorts of things. The second fill mellows them out slightly, and it brings a sweetness, but it brings those notes slightly more palatable. And then with the use of the Malaga cask for the finish, has everyone had a taste, by the way, at this point? Yeah. So with the use of the Malaga cask, for me personally, there's a real distinct grape note that comes through there, and a bit of red fruit and things like that. And it brings a different dimension. I mean, on the nose, it's fruity and vibrant. On the palate, I think it's completely replicated as well. But you still get that quintessential bourbon element that you want, with that lovely sort of sweetness. Now, like I say, it's a sweet wine. Yeah, yeah. So I think that's kind of replicated on the finish as well. No, it's not a sherry bomb. No, and if you know Bushmills, we love our sherry. So it's deviating from that slightly. It is still sweet, not the same sweetness you would get from a sherry cask, because you don't have that inherent spice that you would get from a sherry cask. So you'd almost be expecting from a sherry cask, those sort of nutmeggy notes as well, and cinnamon, raisins, and figs, and those sorts of things that you expect from a sherry. This is a bit more crisp, brighter. We're talking about the sort of those grape notes, and it's very spring, summery, an inherent sweetness that you would almost expect with a vine fruit, if that makes sense. Now, the way that I like to do my tastings is very, very interactive. I have heard all of the weird and wonderful tasting notes you can possibly imagine. Nothing is strange to me. I had someone last week in a five-star hotel say pickled olives with with a certain whiskey. So, I mean, what I want is for us to have a conversation about this. So, no matter what is going on in your head, as weird and wonderful as it might seem, right, or as strange as it might seem, just get it out there. If you're getting something different than I am not, let me know.
Just on that, I have Julian Early, who's a master blender for a lot of distilleries in Ireland.
Mhm.
Like you, she asked the question: at 40% ABV, is it chill filtered? And if it is, how?
It is chill filtered. Yeah. By how? What do you mean?
How are you doing it? That's your question.
Are we chill filtered?
Yeah.
Well, you'll find that a lot of our core range would be chill filtered. in general. Once we move into our cast strength expressions and stuff, obviously that's chill filter. In terms of the processes behind is that kind of what the question is about the process of the filter? I mean, fairly standard chill filtering, to be honest. You know, we're taking, I suppose, extracting some of the essential oils and stuff that you would have normally, even the tannins from the wood that we're getting from the caskings. But what we want to do is accentuate the notes from the bourbon casks coming through with the Malaga finish. So we're not stripping out too much there, because we still wanted to have that character of the Malaga as well coming through, which for me personally I think shines through quite a bit at the finish there. That would be our kind of in the Malaga up to a year. Yeah, so it can be anywhere between 9 months to a year. What we kind of do in our blender, our master blender, Alex Thomas, is very meticulous with these sorts of things. She knows everything there is to know about wood. She's been with us for 20 years of this year, 2 years master blender. Previous her career was in timber. She knew everything to know about wood previously, so I don't think there's anybody better placed to kind of select those casks and to, more importantly, to get the most out of those casks as well. So it's been a meticulous process of creating the 14-year-old, but it's one that we're kind of excited that it kind of bucks the trend from the core range as it was, you know, but it will sit in there in between the 10 and 16.
Just elaborate that she meant the temperature which you.
Oh, the temperature which was chill filter. That's a question I need to ask Alex in the break. Yeah, so I should clarify I'm not hands-on in the distillery, so I'll need to check up that one, but I will get an answer for surely. Yeah, for sure. So to the room, thoughts on the 14? Yeah. So, like I say, this is one that is kind of unexpected from Bushmills, I suppose, within a certain way, because we do have that foundation, that bourbon and sherry traditionally within our core range. So this is one that kind of deviates. Like this is the handbrake turn, and it's one that we have out for a couple of weeks now, about 6 weeks now that we've had it out in circulation. But we're excited to hear everybody's feedback about it as well.
Experimenting more with whiskeys to learn more distilleries opening, or
I'll touch on that very, very soon. That's one of my talking points very, very soon. Price point on this one is about €70. So the main thing for us at Bushmills is always to make things as accessible as possible as we possibly can for you guys to enjoy Bushmills. You know, we don't like dusty bottles. We want people to feel like they can pick up a bottle, pop it, and enjoy it, because the time, effort, everything that's going into every single one of these whiskies tonight, for me personally, I think it deserves to have it stay in the sun. It deserves to be enjoyed in whatever way that you feel like you want to. We want these whiskies to be enjoyed. So €70 for a 14 malt. It's not bad.
Core release, then it would be.
This is core release. In the same way you find a 10 and 16, 21, you will find a 14. And it's just, like I say, that sort of handbrake turn. It's to give a different option. It's the rogue of the malt range, the core malt range, I suppose. Any questions, observations, opinions, anything on the 14?
Really get the sweet wine finish.
You do? Yeah. For me personally, I do very much. It's a long-lasting finish. it's a dry finish, but it's with you. You know, it goes quite a bit, and that's probably it, interacting with the bourbon cask quite nicely. You know, because you get the sort of sweet, lasting notes that are just sitting on your palate as well. So it's a bit of a thinker for me as well, like a thinking whiskey.
Right.
Yeah. It's one of those ones where you'll come back to. You'll come back for a second, you'll come back for a third. And every single time you do, you're going to get a different wave of flavour as well.
What's the feedback from distillery and people who've spoken to Bushmills in general? What are the deviation from what they'd see as the Bushmills DNA?
Good question. So I suppose if you're a Bushmills fan, right, we'll pop this cap off. If you're a Bushmills fan and you have been for a long time, you might have thought for a time that there was not a lot coming out from the distillery, nothing new. And we had to bite our tongue for a long time because we knew exactly what we had, which was imminent. It was right there. It was nearly coming. So we have our sort of production line of projects of innovating and pushing the boundaries. This was one of them, and the feedback has been phenomenal since we sort of launched and bottles were on shelves and bottles were on back bars. People got to start to try things. I brought the 14 on a bit of a road show as of recently, and I think people are very receptive to the fact that we're innovating and we're changing, we're pushing boundaries on what we do. You know, it would be remiss of me to say that the 14-year-old is the first expression. If we take Bushmills Original the whole way up to our 25-year-old Single Malt, this is the first expression that doesn't have any sherry element at all. So that's quite a monumental thing for a distillery that's been in operation for 415 years, you know, and that's for you. You know, that's for you guys. That's for our Bushmills fans, that we want to show what we're doing behind the scenes, and that's what hopefully this tasting will show you tonight. Lift the curtain a wee bit about what we're doing behind the scenes, because at any point where you think that we're sleeping or you know there's not too much coming out from Bushmills, believe me, there's going to be something very, very soon. And that's evidenced by some of what is on your tasting mat here very, very soon. So the feedback has been phenomenal. We've had a lot of people saying that they're staunchly, you know, 16-year-old drinkers or whatever, you know, and with the bourbon, sherry, and port influence. And they're moved on to the 14 as well as another go-to. So no, it's been phenomenal to showcase what we're able to do as well outside of the sherry cask. It's entirely different from anything else we've ever done before, you know, and that's why it is so monumental. So it's something we're very proud to be able to actually put out and release, and it's dipping the toe in the water. You know, it's a lot of what you guys will try tonight is tip of the iceberg with Bushmills. Like I said, someone made a comment about Area 51 of whiskey. It is, you know, and I know exactly what we have, you know, sitting there and waiting patiently. And this is an iteration of that, of just what we're doing to change and showcase versatility in our destination. So, any other questions? Any other thoughts, opinions, anything? Just happy out. Yeah. Good start. Yeah, I mean, anytime you're starting on a 14-year-old single malt, it's probably a decent enough spread. Uh-huh.
Per bottle, what you're getting for this is fantastic.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, that sort of ties back into our mission, our mission statement, our brand ethos is, if we want Bushmills to be enjoyed, so and we want people to feel like they can enjoy, they can buy a bottle, they can pop a bottle, they can enjoy a bottle, and it's not in our interest to have bottles of astronomical prices because then that's not showcasing our liquid, the creativity, the ingenuity, everything that's going in behind. Um, we want you guys to feel comfortable at being able to pop a bottle and enjoy it. So that was one of the thinking points, I suppose, behind the 14 and the pricing point behind the 14 as well was making it as accessible as we possibly can. There's always going to be costs incurred with whiskey distillation, and that has to be met. Um, but like I say, the overall thing is making sure that people, like fans of Bushmills, are able to pick up their bottle, pop that bottle, and enjoy it. That's our main thing. There's a quote, I suppose, within our industry: "Liquid on lips." That's that's the main thing for us, because I can sit here and wax lyrical to you about any of these whiskies. If you guys don't try them, and I'm just chatting about how great they are, doesn't mean anything. But once you've tasted that liquid and you find your affinity with that whiskey, that's what means something, you know. And we're so passionate in Bushmills about what we do in our craft that every single drop that we put out, every single drop of whiskey that leaves Bushmills has to be absolutely perfect. And we want to pass that on to you guys. And hopefully that's what I can do tonight. Any questions? No? Happy enough? He's happy enough to move on to number 2? Fantastic. Okay, so number 2 is something that you probably know and love. I know that whenever I do any session, this is a whiskey that comes out on top. This is our Bushmills 16-year-old. So in our core range, this is our first, well, now our second, I suppose. I'm still using my old spin. This is our second dalliance into a triple casket. So with our 10-year-old, for example, it's bourbon and sherry cask influence. With the 14-year-old, we have our bourbon, second fill bourbon, and then into the Malaga. With the 16-year-old, this is bourbon cask, sherry cask, and then finished in ruby port casks. 40% ABV. You can probably see from the depth of color what the port brings to that as well. Any port drinkers in the room? Yeah. Only at Christmas, unless it's a Bushmill 16-year-old, and in which case it's all year round. And that leads me into something quite nicely. Whiskey is for all year round, okay? Not just for Christmas. However, having said that, see, we all know, right? We have 7 types of rain in Ireland. Yeah. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, right? At those times in those winter months where the rain is battering against your window and it's cold and it's not so great outside, you light the fire, something, you put your feet up, and you know that you're not crossing the door that night. Bushmills 16-year-old is the whiskey equivalent of a warm hug from within inside. So this is, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, so again, you get the port influence from this coming through straight away. One from the color on the nose as well. What you'll expect to find palette-wise from this one is very, very dark hedgerow berries, jammed berries. It's figs, damson plum, raisins, cinnamon, nutmeg. There's an element of spice coming through there. It is quite wintry in its complexion on the palate, but like I said, you know, it's for all year round, not just for Christmas. It's like I say, in anything that I do, any taste that I do, 9 times out of 10, the 16-year-old is something that comes out as a fan favorite. That's a magic whiskey. It has the ability to convert non-whiskey drinkers to whiskey drinkers after a couple of sips, and I've seen it in action as well. Someone who loves red wine, for example, or just likes a port at Christmas, a sherry drinker. All of those things combined, they find an affinity with Bushmill 16. And it is one of our staples, one of our fan favorites as well. So, yep.
Like one of the things that strikes me about this is just how smooth it actually is in comparison to
Mhm.
what do you put that down to, or how do you achieve that with this whiskey?
A couple of different things. So, why it's so smooth or palatable comes down to a couple of things. So, one is we have, I believe, the best master blender in the business, and Alex Thomas, who's a complete rock star. But two, our new make spirit and what we have inherently within that DNA lends itself to so many different avenues, casking wise. Um, it, it, it will always transcend above caskings or ABVs. So what I mean by that is um, makes my job quite easy to a certain degree, in that you will always know that you're drinking a Bushmills whiskey. And it's down to that new expert, down to that DNA, that inherent DNA. So the green apple, the ripe pear, the zesty lemon citrus, that milk chocolate note coming from the malt, that's something that will always be at the forefront, regardless of caskings, regardless of ABV. You'll always have that coming through. Um, a third thing on that one is we're also in a very, very privileged position, and this is through reputation and through relationships with different uh, cooperages, wineries, etc., etc. If you take our sherry element, for example, in any of our Bushmills, um, we have a long-standing relationship with the Antonio Lobato Paez family in Jerez. That's where we select all of our sherry casks from. Normally, in Irish whiskey, if you're a smaller distillery, it's kind of get what you give, like get what you're given type thing, and don't ask any questions. Um, for us, it started out that we were able to select our own casks, select our own sherry casks. Now, what that's transcended to, we actually are able to select the sherry that goes into that cask and then revisit in 2 years to see how that has developed. And if it's not right for us, we start that process again. So that gives us organic ownership over that process of our sherry cask involvement from the get-go. We have a similar relationship with our port cask, for example, Taco Pal in Portugal, our bourbon casks in Calvin Cooperage in Kentucky. So it's complete sort of ownership, co-partnership with our cooperages and our wineries to ensure that what we get from our casks is going to accent our new mix bird from the get-go. And that's something that might seem like a very fleeting statement. There's not a lot of distilleries worldwide that have that availability, that have that relationship, and can hone that. So, like I say, that gives us essentially, complete ownership or co-partnership within that whole process, from our initial cask selection to what you will find in your bottle. So, um, why it comes across so smooth and so palatable is because we've had that interaction. We've been able to hand select not only the cask but the sherry that goes in that cask. which is phenomenal for us to be able to have. You know, it means that from our vision and inception of how that liquid should be, from the idea stage to that finally being in the bottle, we can plot that entirely and own that as well. So that's probably one of the reasons why the 16-year-old is as smooth and palatable as it is. But also, when you have a rock star like Alex Thomas as our master blender, has anyone met Alex previously? No? I hope you do at some stage. She is absolutely incredible. She is leading the charge with Bushmills and Irish Whiskey, and she is behind a lot of the creative elements that you will see over the course of your tasting here as well, and beyond. So having someone like her in our ranks as well is invaluable.
16, it's been around for a while. Is it hard to maintain the typical port influence? Has that changed throughout the years?
No, it hasn't changed so much. I mean, I'm sure it has changed for some people, but I suppose we've any cooperages, wineries, etc., that we've been dealing with for a couple of 100 years. The relationships are there. Our consistency is always going to be there. I suppose it's a joint effort at this point. So it's not so much hard to manage. It's more so introducing people to new things within our range, like say the likes of the 14. If you're a fan of the 16-year-old, you probably like sherry influence and you like that port influence. So how can we kind of nudge you towards that more bourbon influence? But it's not hard to manage in terms of caskings and things like that, or consistency. It's fairly fluid. Yeah.
Just on your bourbon casks, do you have concern? So we mentioned earlier on that Americans are starting to change the ball over there to second use possibly. Do you concern that supply is going to be a consideration?
Well, I think every Irish whiskey distillery probably has some degree of concern around what's happening in bourbon, but also not so much. I mean, yes, we use a lot of bourbon casks within our core range, and that's something which probably, if push came to shove, I think Bushmills would probably be okay in terms of supply. But also, what I think it will do on a broader scale is push more creativity, push more ingenuity. I mean, in the past couple of years, we've seen more the introduction of more wine casks, for example. We've seen cognac casks, we've seen so on and so on. We deal with a lot of things. We've done tequila cask finishes, we've done vermouth cask finished whiskies, which was the world's first. So change is nothing new to Bushmills. I suppose if you've been distilling for 115 years and counting, you're going to come into different challenges, and it's how you manage them. I don't think any change in law with bourbon cask would necessarily affect us too much, but if it did, you grow and you adapt, and you change model slightly. We're very lucky that we have such strong relationships with our sherry cask partners and our port cask partners and so on. So we have a lot of different options and a lot of different avenues that we currently deal with, but also a lot of different experimental casks that we're currently dealing with. So I think there'll always be some way that we can change our operations of things should that ever come to pass. So yeah. There's a question. Here's a, so the general rule of thumb is 3 times or 30 years. And normally, if if a cask comes to the end of its lifetime, you will probably find it at your local garden centre, your local bar, the bottom of your mate's garden. You know, there's many uses. Yeah, I've seen people who've made benches and garden furniture and stuff out of previous casks and stuff. So I mean, sometimes if there's a brewery or a local brewery or something that wants to do something, I don't know, whiskey finished stout or something along those lines. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's really no limit to the options that you can use those casks. Do you want one? You let me know, and sure I'll throw one in the boat. Yeah, 100%. So, empty. So, thoughts on the 16-year-old? Yeah. How many people in the room have had the 16-year-old before? Yeah. Fan favorite. Okay. So we're building up. Okay. Any questions or anything about the 16-year-old? What price? Oh, in euros. I shop between. It's about 110. I chop between euros and sterling all the time, so I'm always trying to convert in my head. But 110. Yeah. Um, any other questions about 16-year-old? I mean, it's not a personal preference, really. I mean, for the core range, which is 1, 2, and 3, which you're going to try, a drop of water is personal preference. It might open up some flavor profiles within itself. It can unlock some of the oils and stuff. That comes more into play really whenever we get into cask strength. So a drop of water and cask strength, which we'll chat about the next couple of months. It opens up a hell of a lot more, but that's a chemical process, which I'll chat about once we get the 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, I mean, it's just down to personal preference, really. You know, for some people on their palate, a drop of water in any of the core range, probably with the 16 or 21, might open up something, one of the more nuanced taste notes that you haven't kind of come across before. So, for example, with the 16-year-old, for me, it's like I said, jam berries, it's hedgerow fruits and figs and damson plums, morello cherry, all those sorts of things. When you add that drop of water, what you actually start to get coming through from the 16 is peaches, mango, apricot, like sort of more tropical notes coming through. For me personally, but again, you know, there's 30 odd of us in the room here, you know, and we'll have 30 different palettes. So that's why it's always interesting to hear, you know, different weird, wonderful taste notes, which believe me, we'll get on to once we start moving into these ones, because I've had a few weird, wonderful ones. I'll share them with you, you know. But the wee drop of water sometimes just opens things up a wee bit for your own palate, you know. Anybody else? Any questions? Happy enough? Okay. Happy to move on to number 3. Fantastic. So number 3 again is on our core range. It's one you may know and love. One you might not have tried before. It's our Bushmills 21-year-old. Has anyone tried the 21-year-old before? Yeah, a few people. Okay. So again, triple casking, bourbon and sherry as the maturation casks, and Madeira as our finishing cask for 2 years. So whenever we're talking about finishing and finishing casks, the majority of people will tell you that anywhere between 9 and 18 months is enough. That's what you want from your finishing cask, because that'll give you enough character in terms of flavor profile, aroma, color, etc., etc. That's not an exact science. It really isn't. Every whiskey is on its own merit. And for us, 2 years was the point for the 21-year-old where we felt like we got what we needed from the Madeira, but also maintaining that Bushmills DNA. So this is a 40% ABV again. You'll see that this is probably on the nose, on the palate, very, very different from the 16-year-old. Whereas the 16 was more those sort of dark, rich hedgerow berries and the fruits, those dark fruits. This 21-year-old is probably a bit more herbaceous, a bit more floral. Someone who I respect very much within the Irish whiskey industry gave me a tasting note for this one, which I can't get out of my head as much as I try, which is Turkish Delight. Now, that might resonate with some of you. It might not. I would not thank you for a bar of Turkish Delight. Okay, I'd probably throw it in the bin, to be honest. But I can see where the thought process is, because with the use of malt, you're going to have that chocolate note coming through, that sort of milk chocolate, as a real base. But also then with the Madeira, it's a lot more floral, a lot more herbaceous as a liquid itself. Fortified wine from Portugal. So it has its own inherent spice, has its own inherent herbaceous character. So the likes of rosewater, for example, would be something that would be quite prevalent within Madeira. So I can see how that rosewater and milk chocolate mix would lead you to that. Having said that, I have heard some crazy notes about this, which are mint, if I was getting mint, rosemary is another one. I've got rosemary before as a taste note. Someone said oregano, but they were American, so it's oregano. So I can see how that herbaceous nature kind of comes through within the finish of the 21-year-old. Having said that, they're all big and bold flavors that I spoke to you about in terms of the herbs and all that sort of things. But if you think about it a bit more and come back for a second sip, you still know that that's a Bushmills whiskey. It's inherent within that. The DNA is still there. So delve that wee bit deeper and you still find that green apple, the ripe pear, the zesty lemon citrus, and obviously that milk chocolate is just prevalent throughout. So the 21-year-old is probably something that I get it's one of the whiskies that I get one of the most outlandish taste notes with. So if you're feeling behind the door about saying something crazy, I've probably heard it. But the 21-year-old is definitely a thinking whiskey. And what I mean by that is your first sip will not reveal too much. Second sip will reveal something completely different. The third, different again. This is one that you need to revisit again. And each different time, you will access something completely different you didn't get in the first sip. Any questions, observations, anything? It's lovely on finish, and for me, it's very dry. It's a dry finish that lasts. But what it also does, it's a dry finish that lasts, but it also, at the center of your palate as well, there's a textural element almost that it kind of locks in all the rest of those flavor components. So you have this fulcrum, this central point where you know what you've got from that whiskey, and each different time that you come back and try it, there's something different coming in, but it'll eventually all make its way to the center of your palate. So that's why it's what we consider in Bushmills as a thinking whiskey. It's going to get you thinking. It's going to get you question what exactly you're tasting, and that's exactly why I get some mad taste notes about it. That's why Turkish Delight came about. That's why rosemary and mint and all these sorts of herbaceous things came about, because That's people delving back in and thinking about it again and again and again and again. And going, I'm not really sure what I'm getting from this. I know it's a Bushmills whiskey, but there's layers upon this, you know. Is anybody getting anything that I haven't mentioned?
Shouldn't have mentioned Turkish delight.
Because you can't deviate away from it. Yeah. There's been a few things, one of which you'll experience here later on as well. There's been a few things which people have said to me, and it's the same in any tasting you do. Someone will mention a certain flavor profile or something, and you just go, that makes total sense. And if it was anybody else, apart from, like I say, this was a guy who is very, very reputable within the Irish whiskey industry. I trust his palate. And he said, that's Turkish delight. I don't want to like that, but right, okay, I get it, you know. So again, like whiskey is so relative. It's for all of us to make our own assumptions, to come to our own conclusions. But it's a steer, you know. And like I say, the 21-year-old is so layered that I dare say there's 15, 20 people in this room who have something mad in their head and don't want to say anything. And I get that. That happens every single time. And it's probably going to happen after we finish. They go, do you know what I got from that? It happens all the time. Okay. But for me, that's a good thing, because that means that our 21-year-old is complex enough that it will stay in your mind. It will make you keep considering what you're trying, what you're tasting, what you're getting on your palate, and you want to go back to it. You want to go back to explore it a bit more. So I've broke down a barrier a wee bit there. Has anybody got anything mad? Any taste notes? Anything like that? Or am I hitting the nail on the head so far? Turkish delights in the head, not leaving anybody soon. But again, like I say, it's one that I would never have considered previously. And then I tried it again and went, makes total sense. Herbaceous and floral, and then you get that milk chocolatey undertone coming from malt. It just makes sense, you know.
That finish, that's come to the latch on to straight away.
Yeah.
I like it because it was very bad. Give us a Turkish delight.
Yeah.
sweets, and then mint to be the same.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah, because you get the main thing, the main undertone here is that chocolatey note that comes from malt. Okay, that's the baseline, right? The malty tones that come from that chocolate almondy biscuity notes that come from that, that's the foundation, and then your own palate will take you any different way. So it was literally only about 5-6 days ago that someone had said to me, mint. It was a 5-star hotel cocktail bar doing a training, and I was going, okay, yeah. I mean, I get it, you know. And someone said rosemary, went, do you know what? I don't know what you're doing with rosemary and milk chocolate, but I kind of, okay, yeah, you know what I mean? It makes sense, because there is a far more floral and herbaceous nature to the 21-year-old than any of the whiskeys you've tried before, you know. But again, this is our mission statement. This is what we're trying to do, is in every single whiskey that we put out in our core range, and even beyond that, to challenge you to think about what you're drinking. You know, we've all had whiskies previously where you drink, and you go, oh, that's good. You know, it is what it is.
Compare that to the stage, there's more work than just one than there is with drinking the 16.
There's a bit more admin with the 21-year-old than there is to the 16-year-old. Yeah, but so therein lies the thinking whiskey. You know.
14, 3.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is the joy. So I mean, you know, we started on a 14-year-old, and the 16-year-old, and the 21-year-old. I assume that you guys weren't all, you know, out hammering whiskey before coming tonight. So I mean, you know, no despair, no like here, no judgment if you were, but my our palates are only kind of getting warmed up as well. So um, if you think about why we have six whiskies on the tasting, it is essentially gearing up. It's it's warming up your palate, you know. And what I always say to people, which I forgot to admittedly today, was to try and keep, if you can, a wee bit in your glass, because you might want to revisit once you finish your taste. You might want to revisit number one or number two or number three, and your palate will be warmed up so much that you can now pick out some of the more nuanced notes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Seen a few empties there. Yeah, yeah.
On the 21, somebody has asked,
Yep.
do you have any left? And if you do, can you make it again, same one?
That's not a decision for me to make. There is, yes, but that takes home in our distillery currently. So, but yes, it's what I would say is it's also to the same formula. So it's that so whoever that person is must have an incredible palate to notice not 1% of a difference, if even that. So, um, but yeah, I would challenge them to try the 21 road again as is.
The core range is generally all 40%, and you step up from there to cask and pretty much like nothing in between. It's
Nothing in between, really. So our core range is always at 40%. I suppose my stock line with Bushmills is never say never about percentage increase, but it's something I get quite a lot. It's probably the most frequent request that I get is about percentage increase within core range, particularly when it comes to Blackbush, etc. Um, what I would say is any distillers in the house here, no chemists. Um, this is something I've learned over time with working for with the numerous distilleries. So 0.5% that way or this way completely changes the complexion of that whiskey. So the most common thing that I get is someone saying, I love, for example, Bushmills 10-year-old at 40%. But I would love it at 43 or 46. But that's an impossible thing. You don't know that because that's a whiskey you've never tried before in your life. Like I say, 0.5 this way or that way completely changes that. So 6% that way or this way, 3% that way or that way completely changes that. That's something you don't know whether you like or not. And actually, what we found is that with our with our new make and that fruity, floral, and fragrant new make that we have, and our choice of caskings within the majority of our core range, that's what accentuates our new make at, at its best point is predominantly, with the exception of 14, bourbon and sherry at 40%. That's what brings that to a perfect level. Have we toyed around with 41, 42, 43, etc., etc.? Yes, of course we have. Every distillery does that. But was it perfect? Was it the Bushmills you know and love? No. It's a completely different offering entirely. If we were to bring out something at 40.5, it's something you don't know. It's something you've never tried before. And actually, what you do then is, you're almost sacrificing some of the flavor compounds that you would have from your remake spirit in favor of ethanol, and sort of that alcohol by volume. So um, it's not an exact science saying I love this at 40%, so I will love it at 41, 42, 43. That's something that if they ever came to pass, that we would have to test and try out. I get the logic behind it. I get the consumer logic behind it, But what I would say is, if you've tried 10, 14-year-old, 16-year-old, and 21-year-old, if you thought that was lovely, that's great. You know, adding another percentage or two to that could completely change that liquid entirely, and it will change that liquid entirely. So, um, it's up to you whether you'd want to take the risk. You know, so
Buy your cast strength bottles and
yeah, and again, I mean, as we move on, we are going into cast strength, so it's not like we're avoiding like that added ABV and the cast strength percentages. We are moving into that, and we have we have a full range of that. We've now 7, one of which sold out. So we did have 8, but we now have 7 cast strength expressions in Causeway Collection. Uh, Not only at cast strength, but also in some of the rarest casks across the globe. So if you really want that added ABV from Bushmills, well, treat yourself to the added ABV, but also casks that a lot of other distilleries couldn't possibly access. So we're trying our best to cater to everybody as best we possibly can. But the core range for us, as we see it, is bang on, perfect, to capture that Bushmills character. Do we want to take a break?
yeah, we can take a break for 30 minutes.
So, guys, we're halfway through. So 3 out of 6. We're just going to take like a quick 2-3 minute break or whatever, just for anyone who needs to go look at a drink, whatever, blah blah blah, so on so on. So yeah, I'll see you back here in like 2 or 3 minutes, and you just come all over all your difficult questions you're gonna fire at me as well. Cheers. Uh,
That's actually dead, Livy.
Oh,
Drop you, right? What's the complaints in the chat?
No, it actually be dead there already.
Muted now, right?
It is muted.
It's not anymore, no.
I'm muted.
Whenever you're ready, you can.
Grant. I'm probably good to go now.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. So, are we all refreshed? Had a few minutes? Happy to go after the second half? Yeah? Fantastic. Okay. So, you've had our 14, brand new 14, 16, 21-year-old. Probably going to take you into a realm some of you might have had before, some of you might not have had before. So I alluded to the fact earlier on that some people had this perception, I suppose, that there wasn't many new things coming out from Bushmills for a long time. That's something. Listen, we take that and we hear that and we accept that. But also, like I say, whiskey's a patient business. So we had to bite our tongue to a certain degree because we knew exactly what we had coming down the line. And one of those things was our Causeway collection. So, might be standing too close to me. So, Causeway collection. Has anyone tried any of the Causeway collection previously? Just now, yeah. So, I'm going to give you a sort of brief rundown of what the Causeway collection is, but also what the Causeway collection means to me. The second part of that is not endorsed by Bushmills. I should say that. It's not endorsed by any marketing departments or anything. It's my words. Okay. So, Causeway Collection is a collection of whiskies at cask strength, sourcing some of the rarest casks in the globe. It is done for 10 markets globally as a thank you from Bushmills. 10 of our most supportive markets, giving them something new and exclusive. And everything is different. So what I mean by that is we're now in our 4th year of Causeway Collection. In Ireland, we have 8 Causeway collection releases, 7 of which you can get, 1 of which completely sold out. These are all limited edition releases, utilizing some of, like I say, the rarest casks in the world. But everything, every market is different. We tailor different caskings, different ABVs to different markets across those 10. What Causeway Collection means to me as a whiskey enthusiast, as a Bushmills enthusiast organically, before I even took this job, Causeway Collection is designed to make you comfortable with being slightly uncomfortable. Okay, so it's designed to push you a wee bit outside of your comfort zone. It's also to showcase what we can do at cask strength with some of the rarest casks in the world. Okay, so if you're all ready to move on to number 4. So number 4 is our 2011 Sauternes cask. Okay. At the risk of asking, sometimes people know, sometimes people don't. Does anybody know what Sauternes is? Sweet wine. So a sweet dessert wine coming from the south of France. Normally, you will tend to see this at the end of a meal. It's a palate cleanser. We use that as our finishing cask. Okay, so this is still bourbon and sherry cask for 7 years, and then 2 years in that Sauternes. So what you get from that is our organic sort of DNA. You get the green apple, the pear, the citrus, the milk chocolate coming from the malt. What the Sauternes brings into that is these lovely, vibrant notes of peach, apricot, lovely sort of juicy stone fruits as well. It's quite summery. It's springtime. There's a lot going on with this one. This is at 56.3% ABV as well, so we're jumping up quite a bit in terms of the ABV. But this was a this was, I suppose, a request from Bushmills fans about seeing what Bushmills could do at cask strength. So you've had the 14, you've had the 16, you've had the 21 at 40%. You know what that brings. This was our answer to requests for cask strength. And at that point, it would have been very, very easy for us to release cask strength variations of casks we use very, very often. So we could have given you a 55% bourbon, sherry, port, Madeira, etc., etc. But for Alex, our master blender, that's not what she wanted to do. So she wanted to double down, say, okay, we will give cask strength at varying strengths, but also she traveled the globe to source the rarest casks possible and utilize them in the best way possible. So this is one that normally, and you can tell me if there's any sort of thoughts, opinions, or anything on this one. This is one that normally blows people away because this is the first alliance into cask strength Bushmills. Like I said, we have 7 available variants currently. One sold out. But the Sauterne is, if there's any wine drinkers, nice. Any wine drinkers? Any white wine drinkers, nice? Any, yeah. We'll try and convert you. So, like I say, what this brings,
General is a lot of red wines.
a lot of red wines would be used traditionally within Irish whiskey and have been previously, like I said before, pre-bourbon. But this was in an effort to showcase a different side of our DNA and our new make spirit. So what happens with the likes of the Sauterne is it works very well with orchard fruit. It works quite well with the zesty sort of lemon citrus that you get from the new make spirit. That apricot peach note that you get coming from the Sauterne works quite well with that. Now, like I said, it's 56+%. If I hadn't told you that, you probably wouldn't have thought it was at that. Probably would have thought it was maybe 50s, sort of early 50s. And again, it's our mission to showcase what we can do with our new make spirit. And what I would say on the ABV on that one, and the percentage that comes across is it's very, very palatable for a new make, or sorry, for a cask strength whiskey, and it's showcasing our new make spirit. It's showcasing how those flavor compounds can work well together, which really shouldn't. But that's down to the skill of a master blender and a master distiller. So, at a 56.3% ABV, you probably would have thought that whenever before I told you the ABV on that one. So the age on this one is a 9-year-old. So it's 7 years in bourbon and sherry, and then 2 years in the Sauternes cask. So again, we're extending the period of the finishing on the Sauternes cask there, just to extract the majority of flavor as we possibly can from that, which is always going to be grapes, apricot, peaches, all those bright spring summery fruits that you would associate with the summertime, I suppose. So I've got a few ones from this one. People getting elderflower and stuff from it. A lot of different taste notes coming from this one. But it's very, very well rounded, and you know that you're drinking a cask strength whiskey, but it probably seems like it's low 50s, early sort of late 40s. It doesn't drink as a 56 plus. Any questions, thoughts, any taste notes, anything?
Drop water.
Drop of water will do, yeah, because this is like I say, this is cask strength. So we're now delving into non-chill filtered. So what I mean, there's a lot of jargon goes on with whiskey between chill filtered, non-chill filtered, so on, so on. It's purely aesthetic. So chill filtering is purely aesthetic. It's to give you a clearer spirit, basically, in the bottle that you'll see, and that's it. It's stripping out some of the essential oils and some of the tannins you'll get from the cask. Will it necessarily change flavor profile? It's a toss-up. With non-chill filtering, this is as close to cask to glass as we can possibly get. You know, so all of those essential oils, all the tannins that we get from the cask, we're retaining that in through that bottle. The bottle that's poured for you guys into your glass. That's it's cask glass, as I said, as close as we possibly can. So you're getting a true characteristic of one or new make, but also how that sort of transcends through at a higher ABV and also an experimental cask as well. So, I mean, like I say, I haven't got on any of these trips yet, but I mean, Alex has the joy of traveling the world and hand selecting these casks. This isn't something that is a get what you're given type thing. These are casks that are hand selected by our master blender. If they're not perfect, they are not selected. They're not used.
Is it true cask strength, or is it brought down a bit from once it's batched?
Well, with the aging process, so basically year on year, you're going to lose volume and you're going to lose alcohol by volume. So with our finishing process, you're going to lose ABV as well.
Some cases, cask strength is not cask strength, but still has diluted. Sweet point in the 50s, but not necessarily as it came out.
So cask strength as a whole is 48 and above, non-chill filtered. With our Causeway Collection, that's cask glass. So we will lose ABV, year on year, depending on our casks. We will lose that, but we will always try and keep that sort of above at a level. So that's 56.3. So there's no dilution or anything going on with that one. Yeah, no, 100%. So yeah, 3 and 4 will be the last whiskey you had, the 21 old, and the number 4 there, the 2011 Sauternes, will be entirely different. And it's from Helen to Alex. I mean, the answer is always yes. There will be, not necessarily immediately. So, to put that into context, so our master distiller currently is Colin Vegan, master blender, Alex Thomas. They will never refer to themselves as master blender or master distiller. They will always refer to themselves as the current custodian of Bushmills. And the reason why that's important is because in their job, and to a certain degree in my job, anybody else's job within Bushmills, we're not thinking about today. It's 10 years, 5, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 20, 25 years in the future, particularly with those guys in terms of distilling, blending, all that sort of stuff. It's setting the foundation for whoever is going to come after that. So same way Helen did. So Helen would have done that previously. Alex would have come in with her own ideas. Um, Colin has his own ideas, but it's all towards the same goal. You know, so it's everybody working towards the same goal. So um, it's there isn't too much of a difference, to be honest, because if you think of some of the Causeway collections, for example, we have are 25-year-old malts, you know, and that obviously would have been organically started years ago, but come along the same process and finished to the same process. Whereas anything from now on, you know, probably, whoever succeeds Alex in 20, 30 years or Colin in 20, 30 years, I know that blueprint and continue that. But also will probably have their own ideas that they lay down at that point. You know, so it's building blocks almost, you know. Oh, there's a team. Yeah, there's a team. There's always a team of blenders, in blending department, maturation department, coopers, etc., etc. There's always a team, but there always needs to be someone to lead that charge as well. So and we're very, very lucky at the minute that we have in terms of blending, the blending department, and in terms of master blender, and Alex and her ideas and her vision of the next sort of 10, 15, 20 years are extraordinary.
She needs the 10%. As long as carrying her name going forward, the name of the new person.
That's not for me to decide. That'll be something about my pay grade, that one. But I mean, there would be obviously an organic contribution to that, so I would assume so. Yeah, but I couldn't say yes or no on that one. If it's 10, 15 years in the future.
Is there a big experience now in the both from COVID?
Yeah, well, I suppose the main difference from what you would have seen from Bushmills previously and what you see now is last year in April 2023. Our main issue is meeting demand, and that's a good problem to have. So we actually our owner financed a new distillery on site. On the same site, you can see it from the old Bushmills distillery, you know and love. You can see it. It'll be open for tours hopefully in the next 18 months. Our Causeway distillery. That's going to be the home for growing the expansion of our single malt range in terms of distillation, but also the innovation piece and the creativity piece of what we can really sort of do and push the envelope on. It's a £37.5 million distillery, state of the art. It is absolutely stunning. The day and hour that we're able to welcome guests in, I will relish it. I'll be there. But the main point about that one, I suppose, as well, which some people kind of maybe not forget about, but don't think about, is we get all of our stills from 4 sites. So we had 10 new stills commissioned for the new distillery from 4 sites. And all of those stills had to be the exact same, replicated as the old stills in old Bushmills distillery. So what some people kind of shudder at is the fact that we ordered 10 brand new copper pot stills, and somebody achingly had to go around in 4 sites after a 3D scan and replicate every single imperfection with the old stills. Because if you don't do that, it's a completely different spirit. So the level of detail we went into for the new distillery is incredible. Um, it's Colm Egan's dream, and the fact that it is I think it's the only distillery in Ireland where from one point you can see every single uh, element of distillation, um, which is I'm told a tough thing to manage. Um, but that not only that brings us to about triple our capacity eventually once we get up to full capacity. But it also gives us another opportunity to further then expand our creativity and innovate and really go after experiential casks and all that sort of stuff, of which we have on site, but we don't necessarily have the capacity to be distilling to that level at the minute. So we are doing that, and it is getting to that. In the next 18 months, it will get to a level which Bushmills it's unprecedented for Bushmills, and unprecedented for the majority of Irish whiskey. So it's a very exciting time.
Just on that, I suppose you're probably doing that new production process and building the distillery as your constant flow of whiskey, but you probably move back to your special method to the old distillery. Is that the assumption?
No, both are designed to distill the exact same spirits, and that's why we had that painstaking sort of process with replicating the stills. I suppose if I was a still maker, my worst nightmare would be creating something fantastically beautiful and having to then replicate every dent and imperfection, all that sort of stuff. But what we call them in Bushmills is perfect imperfections. So all of the wear and tear that's going on in old Bushmills distillery, as you know it, that's what creates the stills. That's what creates the spirit that can go off them stills. And we need to replicate that in our new distillery as well, as bright and shiny as it might be, to create that same spirit every single time we distill. So we're not precious about that element of things, but we are precious about the spirit that comes off those stills. So it's a brand spanking new and amazing looking church-like distillery. It's phenomenal. But the main thing for us is ensuring that every single drop that goes off stills, whether it be an old Bushmills distillery or Causeway distillery, a couple of 100 yards apart, is the exact same. Yeah. It's operating currently in terms of distilling, but in terms of people being able to visit, hopefully within the next 18 months. Just once we get up to full efficiency. But once we get up to full efficiency, that's going to, I suppose, triple our capacity of what we're able to put out. So it's not a bad problem to have. Trying to always constantly meet demand.
Supplement each other, the old distillery will become the
No, both will be running concurrently as well. So yeah, they'll both be distilling, both be part of tours, all that sort of stuff. But the most important thing is both be creating, distilling, the Bushmills you know and love. So that's the main thing.
Is a distinct character that follows through.
Yeah.
Bush and the 10-year-old, so try and maintain that.
100%. And I mean, I wasn't part of that particular conversation, but I can imagine, if you commission 10 brand new cup pot stills and then have to send a 3D, that's what we had to do, was send a 3D scan of the old Bushmills distillery, of the stills. And every dent, every imperfection, have you all been to a distillery before? And you've seen probably there's a still that has a panel that isn't the same color and all that sort of stuff, right? You're constantly having to maintain stills. So for us, we had to do that 3D scan of the whole distillery, that whole still room. Every single imperfection, every single dent, everything, the perfect imperfections we'll replicate it with our new stills. Because if we don't do that, that's a completely different spirit that comes off that still. That's not the Bushmills DNA coming off that still. So you can imagine the phone call or the effort of, we need 10 brand new copper pot stills, but we need you to hit them with a hammer here and all that sort of stuff, you know. So, but it's what you have to do to replicate it's what you have to do to replicate your DNA and within your spirit, you know. Huh?
A lot of the Causeway Collection stuff is just not available anymore.
No, the majority is available. Yeah. So the way that the Causeway Collection works is it's done for 10 markets globally. Every single market will get 2 releases per year, and they're exclusive to that market. So what you guys are going to try tonight, they're exclusive to Ireland. Currently, what we have, we did have 8 variations for Ireland and Ireland alone, one of which is sold out. They are limited editions to a certain degree, not to the point where, you know, you have to, they're not or anything like that there, but, you know, once they go, they're gone, you know. And the one that had sold out was our 95 Marsala, which was 3 years ago. So, you know, it's kind of once it's gone, it's gone. But it'll be consistent to a certain degree in giving something different. But it's not a rush out and kick the door down. They vary. From €120 to 450, 475 euro, depending on different sort of age ranges and all that sort of stuff. But you've just tried the 2011 Sauternes, about 115, 120 euro. Yeah. Any thoughts on the Sauterne while we're at it? Yeah. Did you get some of those sort of peachy apricot notes that are coming through as well? And they kind of, you know, they play quite nicely. It's Sauterne in itself is very viscous liquid, you know, same way as you would do with a port or something like that. It's viscous and it has its own characteristics, its own identity. So trying to manage that while trying to also accentuate your own DNA and your own characteristics is very, very tough. And that's where the skill of the likes of Alex, our master blender, comes in, you know, of making sure that that's on an even keel. So, but also it's the one thing I get from this is a lot of people always tell me, I can't believe it's 56 plus, you know, because it doesn't drink like it. Any other thoughts, questions, opinions, any? Is it a thumbs up or? Yeah, fantastic. So, there's no questions. You guys want to move on to number 5? Yeah? Okay. So, number 5 is again from our Causeway collection. It's one of 2 of last year's releases in 2023. You can probably see, if you can see this far, the change in bottles and bottle aesthetics. If you can't, so this was the bottle for the 2011, which you just tried, the Sauternes cask. Our traditional style of bottle. And then for the last 2 releases, we changed to this style of bottle, which you're probably more accustomed to with our malts. The reason being for this was we're moving into a very exciting time for Bushmills in terms of innovation, creativity, modernity as well. So like I said earlier on, we're 415 years distilling single malt Irish whiskies. We have the tradition, we have the heritage, we have that story, and we don't want to forget that. And that's why on the new bottles you still have sort of emblazoned on this are 1608, an important date for us, are an image of our original pot still. Actually, something people don't realize on the bottom of the bottle, Causeway Stone as well. So on the bottom, um, so we're very proud of where we come from, and we always want to make sure that that's our history and our heritage is in every single bottle, both inside and out. But having said that, we're also moving into an era whereby we're moving into uncharted territory for Bushmills, and we're experimenting, we're pushing the envelope, we're pushing the boundaries, we're doing things people haven't done before, particularly with the Causeway Collection. And I'll quantify that. One of the Causeway Collection releases we had, you might have tried it before, you might have seen it before, you might not have seen it before, was our 2002 Vermouth collection. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah, that was the world's first ever Vermouth finished whiskey. World's first. Never happened before. Why? It's a bit mental. It's a bit mad. The second release of our 2023 was a 1999 New American Oak, Virgin American Oak, 24-year-old single malt, entirely Virgin American Oak. That's mental. Distillers, anybody involved in whiskey has told me previously that's insane. It's the whiskey equivalent of Russian roulette. That's what we're doing. We're trying to push those boundaries, trying to open those doors, and people inevitably will follow. And that's what we want, to grow the category as a whole. So our first release of 2023, which was year number 5, is our 2010 cognac cask finish. So feel free, have a nose, have a taste. This is a 12-year-old malt, 7 years in bourbon and Oloroso sherry, and 5 years finished in cognac casks, which we hand selected from the Charente region just outside of Bordeaux. Now, the reason why that's important, I touched on earlier about finishing periods. Normally anywhere between 9 and 12 months is probably what they tell you is enough for a finishing period to get the right characteristics. Flavor profile, aroma, color wise, 9 to 18 months, you'll get what you need. We have time. We spent a lot of time. There's 415 years in this. A couple of years isn't going to do any damage to us. So nothing will leave Bushmills Distillery unless it is deemed absolutely perfect. And for us, this needed 5 years in those cognac casks to grab that flavor profile, that aroma, and the color profile. The cognac casks that we selected, and unfortunately, legal reasons, I cannot disclose the cognac house. I have to respect that. But those casks previously housed cognac for 15 years. So they're incredibly well seasoned. 15 years they had cognac in them. Another 5 years that we were able to extract that flavor profile, that aromatic profile, the color, everything. And any cognac drinkers, sorry? Brandy drinkers, yeah. So there's a fantastic synonymous link between Irish whiskey, in terms of distillation, I mean, Irish whiskey and cognac. Okay? And I'm talking about particularly at cask strength. The aim at Irish whiskey cask strength and a cognac just in general is always the retention of oils. That's where the flavor profile kicks in, retention of oils. So for us, for example, for Bushmills, that lemon zest, which masquerades itself as lemon verbena, those lemon oils that we get from our new make spirit, that's what we want to accentuate a lot. Once you get the cognac, it's almost a different element of citrus. It's orange citrus. So you have this lovely citric forward whiskey, which also brings in the cognac. Cask brings in caramelized pear, for example, as well. You get this lovely spiced mandarin, nutmeg, cinnamon, this lovely touch of spice. But again, as soon as you go back for a second sip, third sip, you still know you're drinking a Bushmills liquid. You still get that green apple, the ripe pear, the zesty lemon citrus, and that milk chocolate undertone comes from the malt. So it's a fusion of two crafts, essentially. And this one's a 53.6. So personally, I don't think it drinks like 53.6. If I didn't tell you that, you probably wouldn't think it was that high. It's remarkably palatable. It's a fusion of two distilling cultures, and for us, it made entire sense, you know. And for the casks that we were able to get as well, having previously housed cognac for 15 years, incredibly well seasoned, and for us to have that 5-year finishing period, that's something not a lot of other distilleries would do. You know, there's a lot of impatient people, me being one of them. That's why I'm not a distiller. That's why I'm not a blender. I would have had a bottle and gone, but we will wait until the exact moment that we deem this liquid to be absolutely perfect. And for us, it wasn't 9 months, it wasn't 18 months in that cognac cask. It was 5 years that we had to sit and wait in that finishing period, and testing upon testing upon testing. And that's what was perfect for us. So this is a prime example of patience personified, to give you guys the best possible whiskey we possibly could. Any thoughts? Yeah.
Water doesn't work.
It does for some people. Water does for some people. Water doesn't for some. So what I would say is with cask strength, just in case this is your first dalliance in the cask strength, sometimes a drop of water will work to open notes up. If your whiskey appears slightly cloudy after that, that's cask strength. That's the water reacting with the natural oils that we haven't sacrificed through chill filtering, is non-chill filtering. And like I said, this is as close to cask to glass as we can possibly give you. So if you see that sort of cloud, same with the wine, you know, if you were to, not necessarily. If you see that bit of a cloud, that's the water reacting, whether it's a drop or a couple of drops, that's the water reacting with those naturally occurring oils that are coming from the cask. That's from our distillation into the cask, how those tannins in the wood are reacting with those oils. It's as close as we can get cast glass to you guys as well. So it will accentuate some notes for some people, maybe not for some other. For me personally, I just prefer as is. But if you feel there's a wee bit of a bite to it, maybe add a wee drop of water. And there's some of those more nuanced taste notes will kind of come out to you a wee bit more. Any questions or anything? These are awful good.
The one-off, there'll be no like 20, 15, 20.
It's a limited edition to a certain degree. I mean, not limited to the point where the bottles are numbered, but the Causeway Collection by its nature will always be done year on year on year. So there'll be a healthy consignment of bottles available. Once they are gone, they're gone. Yeah, I mean, there's no sign of it stopping. So yeah. It's designed to show our commitment to different cask finishes and cask strength, and showcase using different global casks that are otherwise quite elusive as well. So I couldn't quantify the bottles. I'm not 100% on that one. No, not one cask. Not one cask, but couldn't say the exact number of bottles. So so the bottle styling is I suppose something I sort of touched on. So we're very proud of our history and our heritage as being like obviously the world's oldest licensed distillery, and we want that to be replicated within our bottles. So the what I would class as the traditional style bottle in this one, which was some of the previous Causeway Collection sort of their bottles. That will be consigned to the likes of our blends. So Bushmills Original, Blackbush, our Caribbean cask finish, American oak cask finish. Once we start moving into our single malts and with the Causeway Collection, it will start to move into our sort of more squared off bottle, which for me is important for a few things because it still pays homage to our heritage, our tradition, and the fact that you have our 1608 and our original pot still emblazoned on the bottle. Causeway stone, very important where we come from. But like I said, we're also moving into a modern era for Bushmills as well. So it's for me this style of bottle, which will be the go-to, I suppose, is the melting pot of history, tradition, heritage, but also us moving forward into a modern era for Irish whiskey. You know, and trying to sort of shoot that within our aesthetics. So yeah, it's very eye catching as well. I think it's yeah, so it stands out for sure. Sorry?
Was it an XO cognac? Was it BS or XO?
So that one was an XO. Yeah. So it was an XO, and then we had then obviously placed ours for our liquid in there for 5 years. Just cognac cask. Yeah. So yeah, so cognac was in that cask for 15 years previous. So I mean, incredibly well seasoned. Sort of.
Would you reuse that again, or would you just
I mean, with caskings like that, it's never say never. I mean, you know, there's we never waste anything, so there's always a place for things to be recast. For example, it might not be the same project for sure, but you know, it'd be something different. You know, we could place another experimental in there, for example, which could be a triple cask in or something. We try as best as we possibly can to use all of our casks to their capacity as best as possible and not waste anything. And then also, you know, a common misconception: no whiskey is ever wasted either. You know, if a project doesn't go necessarily to plan, you always recask. There's no big drain at Bushmills where we, you know, turf whiskey out. That'd be a cardinal sin. We always recask. If something isn't exactly where we want it to be, we can always bring, you know, recast and bring something back and balance it a wee bit more. You know, there's nothing ever wasted at all. Casks or whiskey. So, yeah. So, any questions, any thoughts or anything on the cognac cask there?
What's that? Read retailing at that particular one?
Euro 125. 125. That is, yeah. Yeah. I think it's for me it's a perfect fusion between like I say Irish whiskey distillation and cognac distillation. And kind of finding that melting pot because it's all about retention of oils, so it makes total sense. You know. Yeah, yeah, because they're polar opposites. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Something we're very proud of, you know. So that was one of last year's releases. So yeah. Any questions, guys? Are we happy enough? Okay. So are you happy to move on to number 6? Okay. So when I started chatting with the guys about tonight's session and stuff, I wanted to do something a bit different. I knew that there was going to be things that you had tried before, things you hadn't tried before. So I wanted to give you something you definitely haven't tried before, because outside of myself, Colin Megan, our master distiller, Alex Thomas, our master blender, and luckily, you got to try it the other day. Nobody has tried this next whiskey that you're about to try. So number 6 is quite special. This is a cask sample that we drew a week and a half ago, I think. And it's something, and this is the joy of Bushmills, like I say, the whole Area 51 thing. The majority of Irish whiskey distilleries, with the exception of a few, will dabble with probably 8 to 15 different cask types in their lifetime. Currently on site in Bushmills, we have 80, which kind of should hopefully show you what we're doing in terms of creativity and ingenuity and kind of toying around with things. So I picked this one for you guys because it's something I think is absolutely fantastic. The first thing I wanted to do before I talk about this is if you can just pick up number 6 and just even try to find a bit of light and just look at the color. It's almost an orangey type. This is something I'm really happy with, really passionate about. I was on a tasting committee for this one, and we might do something this very soon, but we'll see. So this is a non-release. This is a cask sample that we drew a week and a half ago. There is no commitment to do anything with this at all, but I thought when I was chatting to Andrew, sure, we'll pull out the big guns. So I'm sure it would. So this is 54.6% ABV. This is a Burgundy cask. So we've used our backbone of bourbon and also sherry on this one, trying to highlight our new make. And as of the time of extracting from the cask, this is 8 months in a Burgundy red wine cask. This is, well, we'd call it 12, but it's about 12 and a half. But we call it 12 years old. And this is again an experiment that we're toying with, but to wet your whistle, I suppose, of what we're doing behind the scenes. This is to lift the curtain and show you guys kind of what we're toying with. This is one of 80 that we're ever potentially toying with on a yearly basis. So I wanted to bring something special for you guys. I think this is exceptional whiskey. And I actually want to use this one as a wee bit of a toast because this is our finish, our finishing whiskey. So if you'll join me. So here's the wild, here's the free, here's the you, here's the me. This Bushmills whiskey belongs to you. That's it.
There's probably nothing released in it, is there?
Sorry?
Nothing released in this type of cask in general.
No. Nothing. Nothing. So yeah, this is one. If you would like my suggestion, I would take this in small sips, and I would revisit second, a third, and if possible, a fourth time, because it just evolves as you go along. So. Thumbs up. Any questions at all, folks, about anything? Any of the whiskies you've had tonight? You can't. Not yet. See. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe soon. Number 2 and number 6.
One thing I suppose with the regular whiskies that you have here tonight is the lack of anything that approaches a slightly peaty whiskey.
Yeah.
Is that something that Bushmills is exploring along with other avenues?
It's a good question. That's one that I get quite a bit. When you bring the peated element into things, my answer is never say never. But I'd be very, very surprised because what we have within our new mixed spirit and that flavor compound that we have in our new mixed spirit, which is very, if you think about it, it's very fruity and floral, and it's citrus forward, and a peated element might strip those elements out slightly, and it's something that we're, our new make, our DNA is something we're very, very proud of. So I'd be very surprised if there was ever any peated element to come out of Bushmills. Having said that, never say never. I don't make the decisions, but I don't think so. I think what we'll do is continue to showcase our new make spirit as it is, and champion single malt. And that's the road that we really want to travel. And for anybody else that wants to champion that peated element, that's more part of them. That's but I can't see it being. That's it, you know.
One of the fantastic things about having society here locally that you're getting to try things that aren't on the shelf. Probably 2 of these whiskies would be on the shelf.
Yeah.
In any bar, most bars,
Yeah.
Not going to get a chance to try those other whiskies. Have Mark come down and show us, what to remember.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing as well, folks. Whenever we started the conversation months ago as well, we started the conversation about a date, and coming down. Was very, very excited to come down to you guys, but I also want to give you guys something you haven't seen before, and a peek behind the curtain as it was, and I can only say this hand on heart. What you sampled tonight, some of which you guys might have sampled all. Some might have sampled a few. With the likes of the last one there, none of you have ever tried that before, but that is tip of the iceberg of what we're doing creatively. There's you wouldn't believe, and like I said earlier on, when someone referenced Bushmills being the era 51 of whiskey, there was no more fitting tribute. It made total sense to me, and I had a chuckle at it. But I was glad tonight to be able to showcase at least one whiskey that you haven't seen before. I will most certainly be back down with you very, very soon. But if nobody else has any questions, has anybody else any questions?
I prefer the last one out.
Okay. Okay. Good stuff. I get a lot of that. Release that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll feed it back. I'll feed it back. I'll feed it back. I unfortunately don't make decisions about what we release, but I'm just the guy who chats about them. But
It's
no.
great to see when we're new enough to be 21, just over 2 years, to have a brand like yourself pushing them down and not try and push off, the real. Plus, when a new brand comes down, first time media, they want to show off the standard, the mainstay core range and the low range. We haven't tried to do that. You say, look, what do you want to see? What do you want to bring? What do you want to bring?
Well, what
It's been to see a brand like yourselves.
what I would say off that, from Andrew saying that this society is only 2 years old, I didn't realize that, and it's all power to you guys. It's fair play to yous. It's a fantastic society. It's incredibly well run. Um, Thank you guys for all coming as well, because I mean we're Thursday night, we've got 40 odd and a couple online there as well. So thank you guys as well. You know, this is what makes my job so much like I get so much enjoyment from this. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. And obviously, like there'll be a lot of exciting things to come from the set. I'm sure I will see you very very soon as well. There'll be a lot of things coming out from Bushmills, and we'll certainly touch base and showcase that. But thank you very much from me and from Bushmills Distillery as well. I hope you enjoyed everything, and I'll still be here as well if you have any questions or anything like that there. So thank you very much.
Guys.